The Irish one in particular is almost like a cartoon Irish. Like, boy, what you doing there? Oh, laddie. Yeah, let's run the ship.
He's like, Rios is, let me adapt this leprechaun character.
They're after me Lucky Charms. So I'm expecting some kind of pseudo-Scotty one coming next.
Yeah, or the Rastafarian one. Hey, man! Don't you know?
Hey, Internet. It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Picard, Season 1, Episode 3. The end is the beginning. Ta-da.
We're too legit to quit.
Too legit to quit, in fact. So the title, I think, refers to the fact that at the very end of this episode, Picard says, engage!
Yes.
And then we're pretty much out at that point.
Right. And if any of you have been watching, and if you're not, I suggest you do the afterwards, or the
Ready
Room. With Crusher.
Wesley Crusher.
One of the things that the writer or whatever was saying is that
Akiva Goldsman.
He was saying that this is basically like the preamble, or this is just the
so he's just the first 3 episodes are the pilot.
Yeah,
and so hence I think the title refers to the fact that yes, we're done with the pilot. We're 3 episodes in. Boom.
And I feel like if you looked at the first couple of episodes of Discovery, it was like that too, where it's like this crazy situation.
I remember us not being on the Discovery for at least an entire episode, maybe 2 episodes. The show is called The Ship, and we haven't gotten to the ship yet. Yeah, I remember that.
But it was like this whole thing of, okay, now we know after, she's in jail and they're sending her off, and then they have to go to Discovery. So we got to see all her backstory as actual episodes.
Become Michael Burnham, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting if they had decided if they could have done the first series that way, where we would have gotten, the Pike episode, as
I gotcha. Right. Like, take it back.
Yeah.
I agree. And it is one of the advantages of television as opposed to movies. You have the time to tell these stories.
Yes.
And so I'm okay with them taking their time.
It brings up the question of, like, we actually haven't seen this show yet.
Yeah.
The show is gonna be Picard and all his buddies on that ship.
There's a limit to how long you can stretch it out, right?
Yeah.
If you were to say, oh, the intro to the show is 9 episodes long, you'd be like, okay, that's too long. If you said the intro to this show is 15 minutes long, you'd be like, oh, that's too short. So it's somewhere in there. I think you would, wouldn't you?
I would just say that's just the intro.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying this right or wrong. I'm just saying, that's just for this. Yes, if it was just 15 minutes, then it would have been too short. I thought you just meant as a general rule.
You mentioned that generally this you felt like this episode maybe was a little slower in your mind, or am I misinterpreting that?
Yeah, I think you're misinterpreting it. I think I did say that not much happens, and also too, like the extent to which the characters were sort of like, I don't want to do this, and then they went ahead and did it.
Raffi, for instance.
And the other guy, Rios, is also too someone like, but then he did it. And then what is it? Agnes had to beg basically to be on it, even though they would have been like, we've already put your, baggage in coach or whatever. You're already on the ship. Why don't you just...
So we're already taking off.
Yeah.
Jettison. We'll do a quick recap here. We start with a flashback, which is 14 years ago. Pretty pivotal moment, actually. It's Picard is making his last stand case to, help.
Well, just afterwards.
Sure, good point.
He's not. He's made it, and they've told him to fuck off.
It's about 7 minutes after. Somewhere it took him about that long, probably to pack up his stuff, get out the building.
He didn't have a little box.
He didn't have the little. Here's my presentation.
But then, I would think though, in the future, they could have little like transporters.
My PowerPoint. So he made his presentation, trying to get this Romulan evacuation plan going. They say no because this attack on Mars had happened, and he threatens to resign And they're like, great.
Yeah.
We'll just take that resignation. He admits afterwards, he's like, I don't think they'd say yes. I was just like, just throwing out like the trump card, like, all right, this will do. What? Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, for my taste, they could probably do a little more of Picard assuming that people will bow before him, and like, no.
yeah. He's obviously kind of discombobulated in this moment, and he comes out. He's sad and confused and depressed, and he's talking to Raffi. Now, Raffi, I have not read the Star Trek comic, but I read of it.
Yes, I read that exists.
It exists.
I've seen panels.
Panel. So there's a comic in which Raffi is Picard's first officer aboard the ship, the Verity. She's a Romulan expert.
Yeah.
So she's there to greet him when he comes out of this failed meeting with Starfleet. He's like, "Yep, I threatened to resign. They accepted my resignation. I think I'm pretty much done at this point."
And there's somebody looking out the window and seeing them together and decides to call her to fire her.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Is so she in that conversation gets word, "Oops, I've been fired, or I had to go meet with somebody. Hence, I'm about to be fired." And she blames Picard for it.
Yeah.
That seems kind of tenuous, really.
Yeah. I feel that way about all her anger in that episode. Maybe she should lay off the pipe.
Well, there's that. She is addicted to snake leaf, which she apparently grows herself there. To me, it's like, in her mind, she's saying, hey, everything was hunky-dory, then Picard threatened to resign. Well, after he resigned, then I got fired.
Yes.
I kind of feel like they were probably ready to fire her maybe before this thing. I don't think it was like, oh, she's perfect for the job. I can't imagine the thing that's wrong with her. Oh, Picard resigned? Well, let's fire this person that's her first officer.
Maybe she might have a case if she's like, if she'd known his plan all along. If they don't go along with it, I will resign. Because that's part of her thing. Like, oh, now I don't have any protection or whatever. Yeah. But, so it's like, okay, no, you can go as far as not resigning. And then she would have been okay with it? I don't know. So
it sounded like yes. I think you're in that response, yes. If he hadn't resigned, I think she'd have been fine with it.
Yeah.
As it turns out, he resigns. She's fired. 14 years pass. They do not talk to each other. Her life goes on a downward spiral. She talks about through like rage and depression, and she goes and moves out to the middle of nowhere. It's actually Vasquez Rocks, which is a place that's been filmed a lot of times in Star Trek. But she's there. Picard never checked in on her.
No, never
that
did.
Makes her even angrier.
Yes, it does.
Of course, she never bothered to ask.
No, but it's only a one-way street.
It's a one-way street.
So
because
she was doing so bad that apparently she didn't want to call him. She's so bad that she didn't, but only if he would call her.
She was very upset at the interview. She saw the interview that he gave, and she was really upset at how nice his house was.
Yes.
That's what really got her going.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things I've heard other people comment on is the whole, like, should there be class envy in the future?
That's a good point.
It's like, why did she not doing well? It shouldn't be for financial reasons. It shouldn't be like, oh, having to struggle here, right? Because, again, we're in the future.
Theoretically, in this Star Trek future.
It's like, is it just like, I hate not being a part of Starfleet. It sucks.
The other
How do I help humanity?
The other thing is, it's she's not even considering, and I get the fact that is this a potentially realistic depiction of somebody just angry at being fired? Yeah, I could see somebody kind of doing this. The steps she takes aren't necessarily some weird cartoon. I mean, I feel like a person could be like this, but it's hard to like the idea that Picard just had his resignation accepted. So in some ways, he, in a way, was fired that same day.
Yes.
And so he had his own issues.
Yes.
The fact that she never checked in on him also says something. Like, she's just like, nope, I'm the victim, and you are terrible to me.
But, if we have any supporters of her, to, chime in the comments.
Yeah. Obviously, her battle with addiction, in that Ready Room interview, she talks about that's going to be the through line for her character this season. So I think we will see that maybe this mission gives her a sense of purpose. And maybe she goes off of the drugs for a while, but I have a feeling something will happen near the end.
Sure.
That's gonna like.
She picked a lousy day to quit smoking.
That's right. I picked a lousy day. So that is Ralphie's character. He asks her if she knows how to get a ship. She sends him away, but also then says, "Oh, I know a guy." Another thing to keep in mind was 14 years ago, she mentions to Picard in that conversation, "Hey, this sounds like the Tal Shiar. This sounds like a Romulan plot to blow up the ships." And Picard asked the question that I was asking.
Me too. I asked
Like,
it.
why would they blow up the ships for their own evacuation?
Yeah. But maybe what they were thinking is, we're a big planet with lots of ships. Why do we want the humans to help us? We should be able to help ourselves.
We'll come back to that in just a second. But in the meantime, her response, I
Blow it
think,
up.
is because she also, it's news to her that the synths have been outlawed in that
Yes.
moment. That's what Picard announces. Oh, and by the way,
Yes.
we can't use synths. She's like, oh, we can use synths for the cruise.
Yeah,
and she's like, nope. And so I think her response is that the Romulans did this because they didn't want synths to be seen as helping them escape.
Huh.
Maybe I'm not sure that that's a. But anyway, I think that's the logic she was going with. Was the idea that if we use synths to man these ships to evacuate them, then the Tal Shiar and stuff will have to admit that the synths were actually helpful in this moment, and they don't want that, and so they're gonna use synths to blow up. I don't know.
I feel as if they introduced the whole idea about the enmity of synths with the Romulans with this discussion of the Vatjash or Jatvash or whatever. So I don't believe that that introduces the concept, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what she was saying was that that's what the culture is discussed with.
I think you're right, though, that it seems like so far the culture at large, Romulans don't necessarily all hate synths.
Right.
But this small collective does, and so
Yes.
they plan this thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the secretive group.
The Jatvash.
That's that's a legend, children's fairy tale.
It's obviously not a legend.
No, it's obviously not. No.
So put your own theories in there as to this is going to get resolved this
Yes.
season, I assume. Why is it? Let's assume for a second that's true. The Romulans worked with the Federation covertly, or some members in the Federation, spies, to blow up have the synths, blow up a bunch of stuff on Mars to, hijack the evacuation in order to make synths seem terrible.
Yes.
Is that the reason? If not, let us know what you think.
Yes.
Well, okay, so back to your point about which just occurred to me as I was watching this episode is, hey, don't the Romulans have their own ships?
Yeah, and this, really makes you feel embarrassed and it's like, oh, God, I'm going to have to look out for that comic book. Because, it's something that obviously was touched on in the first Star Trek movie, the first modern Star Trek movie, when Spock, was involved with it. And there's a comic that goes into more detail, that stuff. So,
in terms of like spelling out how many ships there are, or what?
Well, exactly what was the situation that was going on at that time. And
with the supernova.
Yeah,
okay.
And I assume that there's more when they, with Picard and his ship at the time, I guess.
Oh, the Verity?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just suggests to me, so we get the idea that, okay, supernova's coming, Federation needs to help Romulans evacuate. All right, we're going to build this big shipbuilding yard on Mars, and we're going to start building ships. All right, that's easily months, if not maybe over a year. I don't know. It's a long time. Significant amount of time they're building ships.
Yes.
And they're starting to work on evacuation plans anyway. My point is, that means they knew about the supernova well in advance, maybe a year or more in advance, and started these process. Well, if you're Romulus and you know this supernova is happening and you've got, let's say, over a year to plan, wouldn't you just start like a taxi service basically, where you're like, we can go warp 9, we got a big ship, it can hold 1,000 people, whoop, 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 like they could do their own thing.
Here's what just occurred to me though.
Okay.
Maybe it's the Krypton syndrome. I'm a scientist, I'm Jor-El. hey, crazy stuff. The world is ending. You're crazy. Whoa, shoot. Oh no. And then he has to send his family off. You know, maybe they were too arrogant to think that the problem was as bad.
Okay.
Maybe it won't happen. No, who knows? But it's the reason, that I probably.
It's just that in that situation, there were millions of Romulans apparently that wanted to leave.
Yes.
So there were. It seemed like a lot of people
They
were
wanted
like,
to?
"It's happening." I think so. I mean, they wouldn't.
You don't know.
evacuate if
You're
they didn't want
assuming.
to. Okay. You think all the ships would show up and they're like, "No, we're fine. No, thanks." Okay. Well, we tried. I like that idea though, that maybe there was some like high authority that was like, "No, this is just a trick to screw us over."
Right. Or maybe they're actually trying to make a parallel, not with Dunkirk, but with Chernobyl.
Oh.
We're in. This isn't as bad as you think. No. Oh shit.
Yeah, because Patrick Stewart or Picard makes the connection to Dunkirk in this situation, but in Dunkirk, it's the English saved themselves. Yeah. So not necessarily exact analogy. Anyway, it's just a little odd.
But I feel like it's closer to Chernobyl, where it's like here we have a problem that's local to us. It's going to affect us. And so we're not dealing with it well. And so the U.S. is like, oh, we'll help you out. Go away. We don't need your help.
You're just trying to use this to exploit some, Cold War type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. All right.
And maybe too, it's sort of like, wow, with their ships, they can only get X number of people off. And in the time that they've now decided to do it after screwing around, now they need much more help. Let's see if we can give it to them. Oh, we can't. Oh, some people died.
Several million people died.
Yes.
Okay.
Trillions, though, right? I mean,
I think they say. I know it should be more, but I think they say millions. I think they say like 10 million people or something. Like, wouldn't it be
survived or die?
I think that was how many they were going to evacuate,
wow.
and they didn't. It seemed a little low.
Yeah,
I'll say that. The
I
number.
agree.
I wouldn't have questioned it if they'd said 10 billion people. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
They could have just thrown that number way up there, and then I wouldn't even be questioning. I'd be like,
no, that's right, yeah.
They need ships. You're right. That many people. Picard does go see this guy, Rios, meets with him. And Rios is kind of a Han Solo type guy. He's got a ship. He's ex-Federation, it looks like. Looks like he had some kind of an accident that ended up, he witnessed the death of his captain. And it's he's kind of haunted by that moment. He keeps his ship pristine, but he just hangs out by himself. He's got these EMHs, these emergency medical holograms, that are all himself. I don't say all. It's just, I guess it's one hologram, but it keeps having different voices. So I don't know if it's like different versions of himself.
Maybe it's for like different rooms.
It's him
different
having
accents.
different accents, and they're kind of like the Irish one in particular is almost like a cartoon. Irish. Like, boy, what you doing there? Oh, laddie, let's run the ship.
He's like, Rios is, let me adapt this leprechaun character.
They're after me Lucky Charms. So I'm expecting some kind of pseudo-Scotty one coming next.
Yeah, or the Rastafarian one. Hey, man! Don't you know?
That's coming, so get ready for that. So is it just that that the showrunners want to be able to differentiate between maybe different EMHs, that they just give them different accents? Or, I mean, there's some reason why, in other words, if he's just decided, I'd rather just be talking to myself, it's this EMH, why give it an accent? Why not just have him talk to himself, right? There's got to be a reason why this thing is talking with an English.
Some reason other than the actor or the director is saying, boy, wouldn't it be fun?
Hey, I can do accents. Yeah. All right. Why don't you do some of the other accents? I feel like there's an in-universe.
If Matt was the director, they're like, well, or not. Let's try one with not.
I would try the not. I'm just saying, I feel like there's an in-universe reason why they have different accents. That's all. It was very notable, right?
Yes.
And you're like, why does he have a different accent this time than he did the last time?
Who knows?
So
I wonder if in the future, like, oh, shoot, Rios got killed. Well, at least we still have these quirky EMHs.
Now, you literally just said something that I was thinking.
Oh,
because of they brought this up multiple times. He's reading this book, Tragic Sense of Life. He says the line, Tragic sense of life to Picard. I had to look this up. It's not like I was like, oh, off the top of my head, I'm familiar with the philosopher Miguel Unamuno. But Miguel Unamuno wrote this Tragic Sense of Life. The philosophy is basically that humanity is motivated by this fear of death, and that our activities are an attempt to find a way to survive in some form after we die, however that might be. Now, I'm butchering that philosophy, I'm sure, but that was my little take on it. Point being, it's very death-based, and it's kind of a depressing type philosophy. I think what this suggests to me is this character's going to die.
He's been dying to mat someone this whole time.
It's true. I haven't matted anybody in this series yet. I think I mentioned Narek because I thought he was a villain and maybe the villain would get killed off. But if he's a good enough villain, maybe they keep him around. I haven't had a strong mat sense. Rios, you've been matted. So there you go. Yeah, what is the thing with the tritanium sticking out of his shoulder? I didn't get how did that happen? I kind of want to know how that happened.
Why aren't you satisfied with his what he said?
What did he say? Just like, oh, I was mopping the floor and I got a tritanium spear stuck in my...
he didn't go into detail. I feel like it's an embarrassing situation for him, or at least it's nothing that, but he was trying to do something stupid and he hurt himself.
Okay.
So he was fucking around with something and...
It just doesn't seem like a routine accident. Like hey, I was fixing the bolts, and then thing went...
It sounds like an oxymoron to me.
Good point. Well, in other words, like...
here comes that routine accident. Is it time for that routine accident? We're on schedule.
Okay, like for instance, if I'm gonna clean in the glass
with
the glass cleaner.
You sure?
And, so there's a few accidents that might happen there. Oops, I got the nozzle spray wrong and it went all over the window.
I feel like that was shorthand.
Oops, I dropped it and it hurt my foot. And a shard of it went into my shoulder and now I'm gonna die.
That was shorthand for Rios' reckless.
Okay. It's just, I think...
Or it can be anyway, unless he's reined in by a captain.
I just feel like him being reckless would be like if he got in some kind of a unprovoked fight. Not, hey, I was cleaning the bathroom
who's going to fight? His EMH?
Maybe. It's just, it was a weird thing to not know how that happened, that's all. So there you go. And I even threw out the idea of, is it self-harm? It's probably not. But, he's got a tragic sense of life. Okay, anyway. Okay.
I'm gonna kill myself. Oh!
He smokes cigars.
He's
he's kind of death wishy. He's like, I don't care what they say.
Yes.
So you have a smoker and you got a drug addict together on the thing. They're gonna. All right. So Rios is good to go eventually, and Rafi, although she says she's not going to join up, Picard seems to know better. And just is like, hey, okay, fine. Hey, here's some information you might want to research.
Yes.
She does. And then she's like, hey, I'm here. So she researches the information that Picard had sent her and figures out that, in fact, evidence that Maddox, the guy, the robot guy, is on this place called Free Cloud, which Picard knows about. He's like, of course he'd be there.
Yeah, there you go.
Really? Okay. Was it that obvious? We don't know what Free Cloud is.
No.
I would get. It sounds like, if I had to guess, some kind of like an independent. It's like we're not Federation.
Right.
We're like a neutral zone
Right.
kind of place, maybe or something.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, because maybe even a place where you could do his research about robots, where it wouldn't be like, "What are you doing making robots? You shouldn't be doing that."
Yeah.
So maybe that's
not controlled by a particular government or agency.
Yeah, who banned all these things.
So suggesting again, we're going to see Maddox fairly soon. Maybe next episode, maybe not, but
hopefully
in the near future. We did actually see in that ready room. They showed a clip from next week's episode.
Yes, we did.
And I believe because I don't know what the guy's name is, but we're about to meet the sword wielding Romulan. I think is what he is, who's going to join the crew. The elf, yes.
Which
go back to the Tolkien thing, everything's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. If we start to see Sauron or Egron or whatever his name is. I might have to.
Egron.
I might have to bow
I'm gonna
out.
take some tritanium and just stab him. Oh.
See how you maybe know what happened.
No, this would be great if Rios goes you have my axe, and then it's like, you have my sword and my bow, and then they go off on the fellowship, and then we see him. It'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It would be Paul's greatest wish come true. Okay, so no, but our elven stand-in character, he better have a bow at some point. I think we're seeing him as a kid in this clip. Picard has shown up on some Romulan colony, and he's saying, "Hey, we're going to evacuate you, no problems," which probably ended up being a problem.
Sure.
And so this kid who thought he was going to get saved by Picard maybe ends up not getting saved, and somebody has to save himself somehow. He's the Kal-El getting.
Yes, there you go.
So he may harbor some kind of resentment towards Picard, who told him,
so he'd be perfect for this crew.
Exactly. Everyone hates Picard. Well, I know we're skipping around a bunch, but so be it. We're kind of filling in the crew here. We'll fill in the crew with Agnes. She shows up kind of unexpectedly during a fight.
Yes.
The Zhat Vash has shown up at the winery to get some free wine and check out the prices, ostensibly to take out Picard, I guess, and his Romulan servants.
Yes, Laurel and Laris.
Laurel and Hardy?
I looked it up twice.
Oh, okay.
And I'm so stupid.
Okay, get them.
It's Laris and Jaban.
All right. We already knew that they were former high-ups in some kind of a Romulan security.
They were Tal Shiari.
Yeah. So they've got weapons hidden all over the place.
Yes,
they
they do.
Under the dining room
That's
table.
right, they're ready.
They take these guys out. I'm not so impressed yet with the Zhat Vash folks.
Oh.
They've been defeated a couple of times now. You're other than I bite down on an acid cube.
Yeah, you're not impressed by that?
I'm not impressed by that.
That's
but they kill
commitment,
themselves.
man.
You kill yourself doing that.
Yeah, but at least you're not okay.
He took someone with him.
Yeah.
Of course, in this case, he took a sweater with him.
It's not waiting around to get water tortured or whatever.
Ah, sure. Yes. So in dispatching those, Agnes shows up and shoots one of the Zhat Vash guys, and it's like, oh God, was it on stun? Hopefully it was on stun. They're like, well, they don't have stun. So
yes.
Oh, oops. She joins the crew. We'll come back to her. She has a talk with O, the
Commander.
Potentially a Vulcan, maybe Romulan spy person. But we'll come back to that because that's a different topic. Okay, so Agnes shows up kind of a little unexpectedly, but it's like, oh, I just talked to O. They were asking me all these questions about you. I had to tell them some stuff, but what I didn't tell them is I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
And so she joins the crew, and notably, Rafi says, hey, what? Oh, anybody can join? You didn't let me run a security sweep on her or anything? And he's like, it's fine. And she's hey, I know everything about these robot people, the synths. She also says she was worried when talking to O because she's no good at lying. There's your spy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go with it. I'm not madding her in that way, but I'm like, whether she knows it or not, maybe she has all good intentions at this moment, but is going to get somehow manipulated into spying. But I feel like that's your spy. Somebody's going to be spying. There is going to be a leak in this boat. And I feel like Agnes is the prime. She didn't get security checked.
She's the leak in the boat.
She's the leak in the boat. And she did that whole, I'm just not any good at lying. I was like, oh, that's like a whop, 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 whop. The person who lies says that. I just mistrust everyone. I'm a terrible person. Okay, anyway, but yeah, so if I had to pick a spy at this point, it's probably Agnes. Here's another thing that I think is going to show up in this show.
Yes?
It might also be Agnes. Someone's a robot. There's going to be, it's like, okay, Soji's one, but they have a nest of synths that are almost human-like. There's going to be someone we thought was a human the whole time, and it's going to be like, oh, the whole time I was working for. So the fact that Maddox creates them, and she was left behind, perhaps you could say Maddox created her.
Sure.
And so he's
You know, that would, yeah. I mean, well, it's interesting. It's like, it's not the first show that has robots, that
Sure.
has people who
Westworld.
are robots, who don't know that they're robots, and you can go further back than that.
Battlestar Galactica.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very Battlestar Galactica-y in that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, if you've got some thoughts on who might be our robot in disguise, let us know. I feel like that is somebody's going to be that, perhaps on this show. Okay, so we've covered that. Oh, so let's just go back to the O meets up with Agnes. It theoretically starts her journey to Picard, and asks her questions. Hey, Picard met with you twice. What did he say?
Yes.
Interesting that it was a hologram. Yeah, it was a hologram of O shows up, and she's wearing shades. And it was just weird. It was like, why is she wearing sunglasses? So part of it could be, hey, it's kind of like a spy versus spy type thing, and when you meet up, you wear sunglasses. That seems a little weird. So in that case, it would almost be like a joke. Potentially, now this rabbit hole, going down a rabbit hole on this. I'll just let you know in advance.
But he wants credit for this.
But I want credit for this when it turns out, on the 2% chance it actually works out.
And the best part is that when it's wrong, I can deride him.
Yeah, yeah. Paul is just like, another thing he'll be wrong about. He'll be stupid. Okay, so in-universe explanation for why she might be wearing sunglasses. Well, in Discovery, you remember the show also run by Alex Kurtzman. They were very...
Also in the Star Trek universe.
Correct. That too. Good point. Maybe more so than mine. People from the mirror dimension, they got trouble with the eyes. Keep it dark. Bright lights were bad for your mirror version of yourself. It's possible that maybe this is a mirror universe version of O. Okay, there you go. Okay. On the former Borg ship, we've got Hugh shows up. So we get our callback from Next Generation. Hugh is now like a director of the Borg Reclamation Program.
Yes.
He's a higher up. He is impressed with Soji's compassion for these XBs, I think we're calling them. And he mentions that most people view these XBs, ex-Borgs, as either hazards,
yes,
or something to be exploited.
Yes.
And that the Romulans see them as both.
Yes.
And so he's happy that Soji is not that. She asks, hey, I'd like to really do, these talk therapy things with the former XBs that are having trouble with
assimilating, or whatever. Reassimilating.
They're having trouble assimilating.
They keep like, I can't connect to this.
How do I plug back in? The matrix isn't working. So he agrees to let her do that. Accompanies her to the ward where they've got the people with, I guess, some kind of emotional disorders that are recently XBs. She points out very quickly, they all look like Romulans. And he's like, yeah, I'm like, whoa, that's a big point to me. In any case, she's in this room full of Romulans that are, some kind of emotional problems. One of them in particular is I think her name is Ramda? I couldn't tell if it was Rhonda or Ramda. Ramda, okay. So it's Ramda.
Help me, Ramda.
Help me, Ramda. She is the last person, or I don't know, she was the last Romulan that was assimilated, I believe. There was a Romulan ship that the Borg apparently attempted to assimilate. Something went wrong, and that's how they got this Borg cube, I assume. They didn't go into all the details. It'd be nice to know those details.
Sure,
I assume we'll know those details at some point. But for now, all we know is, the last time this big Borg cube tried to assimilate someone, it was Romulans. And it screwed up the Borg, and it apparently screwed up the Romulans as well. Because you've got these Romulans that are like, I can't go back to being me. And so Ramda is like, she's like a tarot card reader, and she ends up reading the tarot for Soji, And Soji at one point reaches over and holds her hand in their talk. Her badge starts glowing.
Yeah, it does.
And it's about the same time that Ramda gets hostile. So Ramda's like, "You're the destroyer! Were you the one who lived or the one who died? I know you from tomorrow." So she's talking like she saw her in the future, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of, the fact that she knows that she has a twin and one of them's dead and one of them's alive.
Yes.
And she calls her the destroyer. Also, the Jat Vash guy that Picard's trying to interrogate before he monks on his cube says, "She's a destroyer." So it's not just this wrong.
No, not just one.
Okay. Anyway, the fact that this thing glows when the Borg is hostile, I'm guessing that we knew from before. It was like, when that badge turns green, run. I guess that means somehow if like there's a Borg with hostile intent nearby that it'll glow. I don't know. We're not sure what that means. But Ramda tries to commit suicide, and Soji saves her from doing that. Soji then talks to her mom, in quotes.
Yes.
It feels like her mom is not an actual being, but just a hologram.
It does appear that way.
And the hologram mom tells her, like, "Oh, yeah, no, your sister's fine. She's getting a puppy. Everything's great."
Yep.
And as she talks to her, Soji falls asleep. So some kind of code was being sent out. We theorized that was the case with the last time.
Yes.
That the mom was sent out like, "Focus, Dodge."
Yeah.
That they're sending out stuff. So my guess is, the easy guess would be that the mom is a hologram and it's probably being used by Maddox. That Maddox has a way, to contact all of his
I presume,
creations.
right? I mean, then what we need to find out is why he wouldn't want her to know that her sister had died.
Correct.
So why would Maddox want her to continue on? You think he might be like, you probably should come home.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
But he doesn't say that.
Okay, that's a good point.
He tries to. So clearly,
it would imply more malicious intent on behalf of Maddox.
Right. Well,
which we don't know. We don't know what that.
No, well, maybe it's just that what you're doing there is more important than you taking care of your sister, right? You're there for a reason, to get certain information.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, we don't know. They're like talking about a nest, so we have to. Suggest that there are other creatures like Soji.
Correct.
So why, I would. Is there a reason why Soji is sent as opposed to somebody else? The one that's made to look like Picard. Is that only to keep Picard into like, oh, here's this person that you should help, and then we can get your help? Or is there something else? Like, initially the whole idea with Dash is that she works at the daytime, and so what is she supposed to do when she's there?
Yeah,
so
good point.
Soji is there presumably to do something. So maybe it's really though that
stay on target.
Yeah,
stay on target.
It doesn't matter that they know your sister. They don't know where you are, even though you'd think like, okay, we got any others? Like,
also, it is Soji just knows stuff. A lot about the Romulans, a lot about Samda, and even Hugh's like, "How did you know that?" She's like, "Oh, I just asked and they told me." Like, they don't just tell people that.
Right.
It's much like Daj when she was like, "Oh, how did you find me?" I just found you. So it suggests that they've got some, maybe it's like a remote thing that's almost piloting them, or giving them information.
Yeah.
They're just completely blissfully unaware of it. Soji is not aware that she is a robot yet.
No, not yet.
At this point, a synth, we want to call it whatever we want to call it.
Yes.
She falls asleep, then she just wakes up and talks to Narek.
Yep.
And there's like it's not like wait, what just happened? Like,
nope.
She's just like, okay. Yeah. So apparently whatever wiped her also, not gave her amnesia, but just made her okay with everything.
Yeah.
Like, you're fine. Yeah. Narek talks to her, says that he thinks he's fallen in love with her. I'm not buying it, but
no. Although he might, so that he can live at the end of the season,
okay.
So he can turn on his sister.
Good point. His sister shows up. She's now fully Romulan. She's taken off the disguise. We have confirmation that it was she that screwed up the plan with Daj. And he's like, "It was your failing." He does a lot of leaning in and talking into ears.
Yes, he does.
Secrets. Oh, Hugh. So I assume at some point another prediction to make would be that Hugh at some point will talk to Picard, right? They have such a past.
Yeah, they do.
It was Picard was going to use him as a virus.
Yes.
Like, I'll send you back to kill everything on the Borg. So they've got an interesting past.
Sure.
And why not have them talk?
Why not?
So since Picard is eventually probably on his way to that Borg cube,
Presumably.
he and Hugh have
Why
a little
not?
reunion.
Why not?
That will be good. Oh, so here's my thought. Here's a theory. Another theory. This is one of those 1%ers again. But
Okay.
why, when the Borg tried to assimilate the Romulans, did it screw them up? It kind of plays into the theory I discussed last week. Last week I thought perhaps the big secret that the Zhat Vash are keeping is that they, the Romulans, originated as synths.
Oh, yeah.
And they've come up, become a race of beings since
Now, did you say you'd seen this theory other places?
Yeah, it's like there's a Reddit thing
Okay.
with that. And if that's other places, I guess that's other places.
Yeah, that's not this place.
It's not this place.
So it would be another place.
So here's my add-on, which I've not seen anywhere, but it's probably out there now at some point. Somebody else has probably had this notion. But
There are a lot of crazy people.
let's assume a lot of crazy people. Let's assume that that's correct. Okay.
Sure, why not?
Romulans were synths
sure.
once upon a time.
Sure.
Still are in some way.
There you go.
When the Borg try to assimilate them, thinking they're human flesh and blood
Sure,
or Romulan flesh and
there you
blood,
go.
and they're not.
No.
Maybe there's a disconnect there,
Well-
and it's like a feedback loop or something happens. Oh, we can't. Our ability to assimilate doesn't go to assimilating robots, and so and it blew up the Borg or some way, and it also screwed up the Romulans because whatever they got some kind of signals that jammed them in some way, and so their synth background
Sure.
both protected them and made them crazy at the same time.
Well, yeah. So if this is true, I will declare you an idiot savant.
I get idiot savant, and if I'm wrong, I just get the idiot part. Right? Is that it? Okay.
There you go.
All right, so there you go. That's my roll of the dice theory on what the hell happened there. Something happened. They're going to explain by the end of the season, I think, what happened, why the Borg were unable to assimilate the Romulans. So have at it, why that might be. That's one possible reason that I've come up with the limited knowledge we have so far.
It's true. Very limited knowledge.
So yeah, we've touched on Rios, Agnes, Rafi, Picard, Soji, Ramda, Narek, his sister, Rizzo. That's right, Rizzo.
Yes, Rizzo.
Anybody? Anything else? Is that a good? Are we tied up there?
I feel like we hit all the bases.
All right, we've wrapped it up. We'll be back next week talking about episode 4. So come on back for that, everybody. Bye.